Yeah.
So, I mean, and then you're learning how to, and then I don't know, did you notice anything when you push your knees out at all, or that felt any different?
I actually do now I think about it. I think my knees are actually kind of popping out this way a little bit more.
Right.
I'm not sure.
The one thing, just so pay attention to that more when you deadlift. You don't have to do a lot, but that's sort of what will make your hip flexor get a little tight. So when when you're like this position here, like the bar's here, my knees are in front of the bar. I'm holding the weight.
Yeah.
You get clamped up here.
Yeah.
Right. So when you push your knees out, it opens it up a little bit. If you push your butt back, then you're in an ideal position.
Gotcha.
You know, so that's sort of like what you're running into. So when you pick up the bar, your tendency is to do this, squatting, and that just clamps stuff in here pretty tight, and it hurts.
Yeah.
You might get a little bit of hip impingement. It's basically your hip, you know, the rectus femoris and the psoas. It's basically clipping on other stuff.
That makes sense.
That's because
I usually get really tight on this hip flexor, on my right hip flexor, and as well as my psoas.
A lot of time it's just running. They're running into. I don't know exactly what exactly is happening, but I know that if you look at the anatomy chart, they're coming together and they're like folding in half.
Yeah.
So you imagine yourself folding in half, like that one leg.
It's like you're cutting off that.
Yeah, you're basically pinching it. You know, it's almost like you're pinching. You know, if you pinch your bicep, you're basically pinching. I'm not exactly sure if that's how it was happening.
That's what it feels.
Yeah, but it feels like. But then you get to hear just a little bit. There's space for your torso to come in.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna guess a big part of it is because your torso is so small and you have a very thin waist, and then when you go down, you have good flexibility. So your tendency is you can get down all the way in there, right? And you're fine. But then once you add load, you start.
It's just a lot.
No, you start to collapse under that problem. So like here you're fine, but then once you add load and reps.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know,
like really
one of the things that help powerlifters a lot of time when their stomach is bigger or if they have a big waist, they squat down. They already have mitigation. Now, so you compare like Joel's his thin waist. I have a bigger waist. Drew has a bigger waist. When they get to the bottom of the squat, they have a little bit more kind of forgiveness, I guess, if that makes any sense. And then someone who has less forgiveness, like you and Joel, for example, because of thinner waist, what ends up happening is you basically run into one another. Whereas we have some space here. You know, people or just have a thicker torso.
Yeah. They
have a little more leverage. So then when the leg meets the thigh, so when I get to the bottom of the squat, my stomach is touching a big part of my leg. Your stomach won't touch your leg until you get to the bottom.
Got it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's all really just a big part of leverage. And you think about like me having a belt, where I wear a belt, and I breathe into the belt, I push out on the belt, making my waist. So the belt is 10 millimeters thick, so it makes me thicker. So when I get to the bottom, what happens? I have more leverage. So, and it also keeps me more rigid too. So there's a lot of different things that happen when you wear the belt. So it just depends on kind of what you're training for and what the purpose is, you know. But then you can see how you felt your glutes a ton.
Yeah, like night and day. I'm almost like, man, I thought I was getting this right, but it's just a different way of looking at it. And I think for me, I had to go in baby steps. Like that first seminar was perfect to get me to
learn and then feel right.
What to look for. But now it's like just the little tiny tidbits I need to really make those gains.
But the thing is like just building the shelf. I mean, you're gonna have to build overall development, so you can't just like target the shelf. But deadlifts and squats at heavy weights is always gonna help that. Yeah. I just think one of the things to realize is that if you look at the anatomy chart and you look at all the fibers at the top, you know, how do you load those maximally? You know, and you can only really load them maximally here, right? Yeah. But then, of course, when you load maximally here, there's a lot more risk when someone is not skilled, right? Because their torso gets more stressed out, tightened, so they have weight here or even on their back. Let's say good morning, right? Yeah. But then that's kind of why deadlifts are very effective. Yeah. So one of the things I've done with clients that have back problems is that I'll have them do like a wide stand, like a sumo, right? Yeah, and I'll have them do either sumo deadlift, or I'll have them do just a wide squat and don't go all the way down.
Got it.
Because you'll get a similar effect, not the same, but a similar effect. The problem is just people just can't stay rigid enough to like really load themselves back. Yeah. You know, and that's kind of what they need to do. Because then, I mean, just think about this. Like, think about what your glutes doing is your knees are out and it's coming up. Boom! It's like it's contracting. It's pulling you. It's trying to pull your pelvis forward. Yeah. And then whatever you can load. So that's why glute bridges are great. You know, the only problem with glute bridges is that the range of motion is so small. You know what I mean? So that's kind of why you just kind of hit it from every single angle, and that way you can really build everything. You know what I mean? But then, of course, to think about why you start with deadlift or squats, heavy, is because they require the most focus. Right. You know what I mean?
At the end of the workout.
Yeah, I mean, you can still do some deadlifts and squats in the workout. You just can't really do them like this.
Yeah.
Not without a ton of risk. You know what I mean? So that was great. I mean, like, so then you picked this up. It was light. I mean, you did. I mean, 195 for a triple. Like you barely felt any of your back, right?
Very little of my back.
Right, and why was that? Because you were?
I was tight, I was more rigid, my abs were much more tighter, and then I was pushing my hips back, so I felt like I was able to take, my glutes were able to take more of the load than my back.
And think about that for a second. The reason why that works is because you won't lean more forward if you're not tight enough here. Your body is freaking out when you're leaning forward with a ton of weight. And not just like from a subconscious, but also like in real life. Like bending forward, picking something up has sort of been told us to be very dangerous.
Yeah.
But if you're tight, you can go further back because now you have more, you're safer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So a really big part of being flexible and being able to get into certain positions has to do with having a strong and basically being focused to activate your core. Not strengthening your core, but knowing how to use it. You know, because I mean, missing.
Good point. You can strengthen it all your day if you want to, but if you don't know how to actually activate it, how to actually use it
for the specific exercise.
Yeah.
That's really, because people get caught up with doing abs, then doing squats, or they're doing some sort of core exercise, but they're not really using it in the way that they want to make it stronger.
That makes sense.
You know, and because a lot of time your body is an entire system. You can't really use your entire glutes without your spine being, even if your spine is very not rigid, if it's loose, your glutes are not going to kick in because then your spine will move first. You know, the reason why you didn't feel your back is because your spine did not move, right? So you were able, the glutes were able to do everything. When the spine moves, then the glutes, so then you're translating some of the force into the smaller muscle groups, and that's going to give you issues.
That makes sense, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to go over this. Now I get to
you get to play with this now.
I do. I'm like, I still got 8 weeks as far as I'm concerned, and I'm not really dieting down yet. So I still have, the carbs and the energy, the fats that I need to be able to lift, the way that I need to. So I'm really excited to see how much more gains I can make in the next few weeks with this.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so let's clean up.
Awesome.
So you can see how that made a big difference, right?
I'm feeling it already.
Because you're able to keep your core rigid.
Yeah, no, that makes a huge difference.
And that's the tough part, because a lot of the time, I guess with clients or even, trying to get them to deadlift, I just fear is such a really big factor, so you really have to calculate that in when you train people, because how much confidence they have when they lift the bar, because if they don't have the confidence, you either have to instill it with them, but then if they're already lacking confidence, you really can't, you have to judge how much weight you can do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's true.
And I think that's, here, let me get that. So now the pause deadlift, what I've been learning, the pause deadlift works great for teaching. That's the reason why I just do pause deadlifts now. Well, to start tight.
Yeah.
To start tight. Because people don't start tight, so what ends up happening is they, basically because the weight is so light, they can get away with just yanking it off the ground. So once they pass the knees, they don't even have to stay tight anymore because they're at an advantage, right? But then if they're not tight enough and they get stuck here, they're going to collapse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That makes a lot of sense.
So it's kind of like depending on what you're training for, it will depend upon like how you're going to guide and coach that individual, because people don't, people are scared of heavy weights. I'm scared of heavy weights.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know going over 6, but
soon, not there yet, but soon. But then that's really what it is being able to make everything line up. Because once you get to the working set, like when we got to that 95 pounds for 3, there was, you had to be really in the zone.
Yeah, I definitely felt more in the zone. I know I got a good booty pump out of it. I'm like wanting to hit my side pose on the camera. Ryan knows how to build things.
All right, that was great.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
So hopefully I'll get this up by the end of the week.